So then I was like, and that is exactly how Brian Dennehy and I saved Christmas. Oh, wish you were there. Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. Welcome to episode 1 of Catie and Erik's Infinite Quest for Attention podcast. In this episode, I quiz her on Shakespeare for a little bit. We talk about meter and whatnot. Then we get a little serious and we talk about our history of diagnosis and what it was like to embark on our journeys of being people with ADHD. And there's a whole thing. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. If you would like to support our efforts in doing this and just give us more time and energy and whatever to keep producing this kind of stuff, please consider donating to our Patreon. Patreons, it would be great. Anyways, please enjoy. I mean, you know.
So here's a question.
Here's an answer.
This is our first recording session for Catie and Erik's Infinite Quest for Attention, episode 1. Do you feel an immense amount of pressure to say very smart things?
Yeah, I've been listening to the Attitude magazine, but they capitalize ADD, so I wanted to say ADD-itude, but that's dumb. And also ADD is an antiquated term, so like they kind of committed to the name of their magazine before like the dust had settled. Not that it still has settled, but anyways, yes, I do. I have like a whole list of like cool like things I can say. They'll come up.
Did you just make a list of punchlines?
No. Those did you?
No.
Katie,
but I didn't. I really didn't. But I thought I was going to say, if you did, you should just read the punchlines off now.
Oh, no.
And then when we circle back to them later.
Well, I have a copy of my resume right over there.
That's one of my favorite things to do, actually. Like faux punchlines to me are like the height of comedy.
What, just say a punchline out of context?
Yeah. So like, you know, if I'm at a party or somebody and somebody's like walking over, I'm like, okay, guys, just like go with me. And I'll like, wait. And then I'll be like, and so I said Pavarotti, I meant ravioli. And then everybody goes, ha 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 ha. And then like but it's like, I don't know why, but I think that's like the funniest shit in the whole world.
That was a really smart punchline. You dropped a little Three Tenors reference there. Nice.
I mean, look, I'm not embarrassed to admit I like opera. I like classical music. That's it. Those are the only two things that I've ever done.
I knew as soon as you started that list that you didn't think of a third thing. And it's okay. I've done it like 3 times today. There was the first time I didn't think of a first thing that time. That didn't work.
Also, did you do something with your hair? You did something different to your hair.
I combed it. Yeah.
J'accuse.
You said I'm cute?
No, I said j'accuse.
Oh, j'accuse. Yes, you did. What? Wait, wouldn't that mean that I accused you? But
no, I was accusing you of doing something different with your hair.
Yes. Yeah.
You combed it?
I was speaking of French. Just je, like that would be I accuse, right?
Je is I, so it'd be like j'accuse you, j'accuse.
Yes, I did. Well, what's funny is so when I sit down at my desk is a fucking wreck. And also, what are we gonna do about swearing on this thing? Are we just gonna say swearing's fine?
I feel like we're probably okay to swear.
Like it depends on how because like I at some point perhaps we're gonna talk about something educational.
We can hope.
We can what?
I said we can hope.
Yeah, we can hope. But I don't know. I already lost my train of thought.
You're at some point we're going to talk about something educational.
Right, but then before that, oh yeah. So my desk is like a fucking wreck. That's why I thought of that, because I said fucking wreck, which it is. And so I only ever get the inclination to clean it when I open a Zoom meeting. So like I have Zoom therapy every Tuesday, and that because I need something to do while it's happening. And so like I'll just go, oh yeah, totally, and I'll just like start like subtly putting stuff away and like doing all the thing. So while I was in the waiting room for you, which by the way, that was like 3 minutes. I did a bit before I did about look at the holy WD-40 behind me.
That has been touched by an angel.
Chosen WD-40. While I was putting all my little stuff away, I found the one comb that I own, which gets lost because I never use it. And so, speaking of educational, ADHD people exhibit what's called utilization behavior. Have you ever heard of that, Katie?
Why don't you talk about it, Erik?
Well, I want to know that you have, because I want to have it. I don't want to just teach people stuff. I want to know that I know something that you don't. That's like,
I mean, I have heard of utilization therapy, but I bet the people listening.
oh no, not
You
utilization.
told me about it. You were the person who taught it to me. We already had this conversation.
Well, thanks for preserving my ego. But
It's okay. That was you. You did introduce me to the concept. I had never heard of it before, and then I like read about it after you told me about it.
Oh well, it was after I did the fidgeting video
Yeah.
a while ago, because I thought utilization behavior was some technical term for the behavior of the act of fidgeting. It's not. It's a different thing. But utilization behavior is basically when is the behavior of when you see an object, you want to use it for its intended use. Like you get the impulse to use it. So me seeing a comb, I was doing something completely not related to combing my hair, but me seeing a comb put my brain in like comb mode for a second, like that, like combing your hair. And so I immediately just like grabbed it and started combing my hair. Like that happened like less than 10 minutes ago. So utilization behavior is basically your brain wants to use something for its purpose when it sees it. So seeing a toothbrush and immediately getting your to brush your teeth and whatnot. It's pretty uncommon just generally, but it is more common in people with ADHD. And I've never really like noticed it in my own life, but I guess it just happened, which is strange. So there you go. I have one.
But then I wonder then how that interacts with like, I need to have everything out. Like I can't have like the special box where I keep the thing. It's like I have to be able to see the thing or I will never find that. Like this thing, like this. Wait, where did it? It's gone. Wait, oh no, I see it.
On brand.
That was some peak. That was just embarrassingly accurate. But like this thing, like I have this stupid little thing and it's like the converter so I can plug my headphones into my phone. And this fucking stupid piece of shit thing, I have bought like 9 of these because I keep losing them. And so I was like, okay, so what I did is this very kind person, they gave me this bag and it's clear. And so now I can see it and it stays in the bag and it's clear and I can see it and it's the best thing. And so it has a place that it lives. But then it's like if I see it, then I'm like, do I need to use it? You know? And so then it's like it's weird. It like conflates in my brain.
That's fun. Like I was given, well, for one, I know a truly statistically unreasonable amount of people who have worked at Apple stores, and those things are commonly referred to in the Apple community as dongles, D-O-N-G-L-E, dongle.
Dongle.
However, the administration people, the corporate, have now sort of banned the use of the term dongle to refer to those things just because it sounds dirty. It isn't. Okay. It doesn't mean anything dirty, but it totally sounds dirty, which I think is funny. It's like this totally subjective like understanding of the term as being dirty scans so much so that they had to ban like a meaningless term.
Wasn't there like a commercial though where it was like a double dangle dongle? Do you remember that? I don't know. I swear there was like a commercial where it was like a double dongle or something.
Come on, Erik. So just speaking of dongles, so I have these drawers, which are great. Which, by the way, ADHD tip: get one of these, motherfuckers.
I have an obsession with tiny drawers.
Oh, they're great.
Like, I love tiny drawers. Like my grown-up adult life's goal is to own a full-size library card catalog, like an antique one, because it's what I want to use to like organize like all my sewing notions. Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead. You have drawers.
Sorry. Yes. Library catalog cards. First, just ask me to find my dongle. Just ask me to.
Erik, find your dongle. Incredible.
Right? And you know how I knew it was there? Because it's labeled dongle. I don't know if that's back. Dongle.
No, it's right. It's forward.
So all those strange little things that usually go in like a disc or like in a little cat lapping up milk dish, blah, 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 like, you know, the little things that you throw coin change in and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's where that ends up. Where those where it's like I'm not gonna make a whole location for one tiny little thing. So you just kind of throw it in the detritus, the flotsam and jetsam dish. That was an obscure reference. This is nautical terms, flotsam and jetsam. You ever heard that term before?
I thought you were making a Little Mermaid joke, but that's fine.
Are the words flotsam and jetsam in the Little Mermaid?
That's the name of the eels. Like Ursula's pet eels are Flotsam and Jetsam.
Oh, no way!
Yeah, it's in the song. She goes, Flotsam, Jetsam, now I've got 'em, boys. Your boss is on a roll. He's poor on full. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sure you can do the whole thing. I kind of want you to. I don't kind of want you to. I wanted to while I was saying that, but once I said it, I realized I didn't want you to. But I'm very impressed. Okay. I'm like 50% impressed and 50% concerned. We're gonna edit this part out. I remember what I was gonna say. Oh, flotsam and jetsam are the terms. If a ship is sinking and you need to lighten the ship, like make the ship less heavy, flotsam and jetsams are the things that you would throw off the ship to make it less heavy and therefore sink less quickly. And so flotsam and jetsam is sort of terms for like things that you like just shit, like fucking just stuff, get rid of, like, who cares? Flotsam and jetsam. Fun fact, in GTA 5, in the GTA universe, which, by the way, I've played hundreds and hundreds of hours of the GTA. I don't want to talk about it now. But something I really admire about the series is every single thing is sort of a joke, like is like satire. So right. The branding of everything, like the amount of writers that they employed for these things are incredible. But the name of the shipping company, like if you go to a shipyard, one of the names of the shipping company is Jetsam, Jetsam, Jetsam. Which sounds like a shipping, like Pan Am, Jetsam, but it means stuff that would fall off, that you would throw off a ship, but in their shipping containers. I thought that was so clever. Like somebody thought of that, and they're like, "Wow, I nailed that one," and indeed they did. It's amazing. But anyways, really definitely.
I suddenly decided that what I need to know more than anything else in the entire world is whether or not the word flotsam appears in Shakespeare. I don't think it does, but I'm gonna look anyway.
Are you thinking?
Because I want to know.
Thinking of Falstaff.
There is no use of the word flotsam in Shakespeare. Just so you know.
Is there just I imagine that there is some massive compilation, like the complete works of Shakespeare, that you can actively search through.
Yeah, it's actually this real. There's a couple of them, but my favorite is called Open Source Shakespeare, and it's like the best thing ever because you can search every one of his works by keyword. So like if you just decide one day that you want to wake up and know how many times the word, hand appears in the Shakespearean canon, you can look up the word hand across all of the text. Or you can, you can search by like show or whatever, which is like also really cool. Because then that way you can find it by like specific show. If that's a thing that you want to do in your life. I use it a lot for grad school because sometimes you just need to know, like, how many times does the word hand appear in Titus Andronicus? And the answer is 58.
Oh, damn it. I just wrote down a fun segment idea would be for me to think of words and then ask you how many times you think they appear in Shakespeare.
No, that's the one that I know for a fact is 58. But yeah.
What's the most interesting occurrence of the word hand that you can think of?
In Shakespeare?
Not in general. We don't have that amount of time.
I think my favorite is there's a really sick pun where they're talking about getting his hand chopped off, and then he goes, "Oh, handle not the theme to talk of hands." And so he uses like, handle that's the theme to talk of hands. Like it's just it's really good. It's some very clever wordplay.
It is. That is insanely clever wordplay because the word is the same.
That's our first segment. It's Catie rants about Shakespeare. You have 2 minutes to rant about Shakespeare. Go.
Well, also, I know you dropped this a couple times, and I've deliberately not asked you because I wanted to record your answer. One, because I think other people are curious of it too, but also because I'm going to forget.
Right.
Finish that sentence. Yes. I knew I was going to put. What? So you have 2 master's degrees, right?
Yes.
What's up with that?
Well, I have 2 master's degrees. The first one is in it's a Master of Letters in Shakespeare. And then, so A to Z, I know them all. I worked really hard to learn the alphabet. And then the second one is Master of Fine Arts in Shakespeare in Performance. So the very pretentious and silly way of saying it is that I'm basically qualified to teach Shakespeare page or stage. Like I studied it linguistically and textually and rhetorically, and then I also know a lot about it just in terms of being a performer and getting to say the words, which is my favorite part. So
something that I always noticed when I saw Shakespeare performed is that it seems like a lot of the actors it's like they kind of wanted to impress the audience with how well they had memorized the words by saying them really fast. Mm-hmm. And that always bothered me, because that's the whole thing about, like, you know, his meter and everything like that, is it's just it just sounds good. If you didn't speak English, it still like sounds pleasant, like the way that mm-hmm. the words flow. And that always really frustrated me. That was
the sort of like approved, like I say that because like there's a lot of different schools of thought, but the sort of approved like length of time is that for every 20 lines of text in Shakespeare should take you about a minute. That is the speed at which you're supposed to do Shakespeare.
How did that come about?
It's like, because if you, that's a great question. Because if you, I like how this is just now an interview. Like Erik interviews Catie about Shakespeare. But if you look at like the original sources and stuff like that, and if you lean kind of heavily into 2 hours traffic of our stage, which is probably pretty close to like what they were going with, maybe a little bit longer. But you can get through most of Romeo and Juliet in about 2.5 hours if you are going at about 20 lines per minute. And so
the idea was to keep the show a set duration, or reasonably.
I don't think that. I think what it was is like, you know, because like Hamlet is really long. Like even at 20 lines per minute, Hamlet is about 3.5 hours. But Romeo and Juliet is one of his like mid-length plays. But in that text, there is that specific line about the 2 hours traffic of our stage. And so some scholars really kind of have taken that to heart and said, okay, like if it's 2 hours-ish, we'll say 2 hours-ish, which is about 2.5 hours-ish. What would that take? And it's 20 lines per minute. And the thing that I like about it is that 20 lines per minute is like, you still have time to get the words out and have them be understood, but you're not doing like to be or not to be. Like, you know, there's like a clip to it, and there's an urgency to it that I think is really cool.
So what's the line from Hamlet that you just brought up? 2.5 hours traffic to stay. I wish I could.
That's from Romeo and Juliet. It's oh god, now I'm gonna have to look it up because I hate being put on the spot with Shakespeare. It's like, oh, you don't have it all memorized.
I'm gonna do it a lot.
You have every two households both alike in dignity and fair Verona where we lay our scene. Well, it's 2 hours traffic of our stage. That's the end of it, but I can't remember. Hold on, now I'm gonna look it up because it's gonna drive me insane, crazy. Yeah. Yeah, and the continuance of their parents' rage, which but their children's end not could remove, is now the 2 hours traffic of our stage. The which, if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend. That's what it is.
I'm sorry, Catie. That was I think that was about 16 lines a minute. So, I have at least one of those master's degrees back, please.
That's true. That's like, that was actually, I'm gonna argue that point because that was precisely the right
it was.
Listen, motherfucker.
Part of me was like, all right, I'm gonna give you shit about that just because, you know, it's fun. It's a little math joke. It's kind of a literature joke. But I also knew that you probably had a solid understanding of exactly what that sounds like. And
right?
How wrong I was, you know?
I mean, you're not wrong. You're just inaccurate. There's a difference.
Any quotes real quick? Well, the section that is your section on my whiteboard is now full. I need to get a new. I need to get Well, so this used to be this big rectangular section, and I cut out this section here so that it would fit by my desk, but I didn't have to move my pegboard, which is just a nightmare to move. So I actually do have a reasonably, well, I have an unallocated section of whiteboard that I sort of just put somewhere, but it doesn't have a specific purpose. I got my mobile whiteboard that has like this little holder on it for the thing. So like this is, I can take around, and then this is my primary, this is my main squeeze because I'm at my desk. I can just, my desk used to be here, so I could like write on it like that, which is the best. But anyways, I think you and this and all is at the point where I think it deserves its own whiteboard.
You can also use whiteboard marker on your window, so.
Oh, fuck. You're right. Oh, God.
Did I just ruin your life?
Oh, it works so well. So a lot of people have told me that they use their bathroom mirror and they use their mirrors. And every time I read that, I like deliberately just perish the thought from my brain. Because once I know that, it's just over. Like, I'm just going to start, all my windows and mirrors are going to be covered in whiteboard stuff. But then the natural next thought is what else can be used as a whiteboard thing? And so then I'm just going to ruin my entire life with things written on whiteboard. I'm going to write on my computer. I'm going to write on my like little jars. First, it's glass, you know, look at that. There it is. And you can erase it. Mason jars, valid whiteboard. There it is. It's open. The Pandora's box is opened. It's over.
What if you like got mason jars and then you like painted the inside white, and then that way you could write on the outside and you could see it because it would be up against the white paint on the inside. That
would be cool, but I feel like the reason I would want to write something on a mason jar would be to label what's inside of it temporarily. And in that case, it would also be beneficial to see what's inside of it, because why wouldn't you?
That's valid. That's a valid point. Didn't think about that. I was thinking more for like Pinteresty, like, you know, when you like do the thing where you like hang the mason jar like up on your wall, and you're like, here's where my cotton balls go and my Q-tip.
My little, one of the best use for mason jars, and that like is Pinterest worthy, because it has nothing to do with it was done strictly functionally. Is if you take the cap of a mason jar and you have like let's say you had like a shelving unit in a shop, you can screw the cap, the top, the lid of the mason jar to the bottom of it, and then take this and go shoot and screw it in like a light bulb so that they hang like under the thing.
Oh, okay.
Back up. Best thing I've ever seen. It was very like, I hate now that I've thought of that, like that would do really well on Pinterest, because it was done in like this shop of a person I really respect, and I was like, wow, that's evidence of his genius. On Pinterest, like a whole section of my brain is going to explode.
Erik, our producer is telling us that we have to move on.
Cool. All right. Well, I actually did. So how did you get that? You got diagnosed way later than I did. I got diagnosed twice. Once when I was 15.
Did you really?
Yeah. Well, so I got diagnosed once when I was 15, and then again when I was 22, I think.
Yeah.
I'm 26 now. And they were very different experiences. Like when I was 15, I got diagnosed. Well, for one, I kind of knew, because my dad has very bad ADHD, and one thing we know about it is that there is a strong genetic component. And my dad has like obvious ADHD, like it's very clear, and it's awesome. He's rad. I was just gonna say, like, he did this graphic and have the like, and it's gonna be the magic show graphic that he's gonna do.
I'm so excited for it.
So sweet. But yeah, so I was kind of new, and so getting diagnosed was just basically, I mean, frankly, it was because I wanted to just get medicated. I wanted to do something in my brain, like getting medicated was the answer, because I was like 15 was sort of the point where like this is going to be those pretend, but like I intellectually sort of like woke up and was like, oh shit, the stuff we talk about in school is like awesome, you know, which is not to say that it hadn't happened before, but I sort of, it all sort of came together where I realized like, oh my gosh, the stuff that is around me is super interesting, and it's my whole job just to learn it. Like that's what it's here for, is for me to like learn it. And if I do well at learning it and can prove it, then I get to learn even more crazier, awesome stuff, like, and just, whoa. And so it started to be like where I really wanted to study. I really wanted to do the reading and wanted to do the homework. And I always sort of figured that I could focus if I wanted to. I just didn't want to, so I didn't. And so when we would do like a portion of the reading of something in book, and then they would say like, all right, your homework is to finish. And so I'd go home and try to fit, like, it just couldn't happen. And it's a weird, I mean, to those watching, if you have ADHD or are confident you have ADHD, you're familiar with the feeling of just the like, it's like your brain is vibrating, and well, think of like a washing machine or a dryer that's on a spin cycle, and it's simply like, and it's imbalanced. There's like something off in it, so it goes like that. That was for the visual effect. That's kind of what it feels like. Where like I wanted to do the reading, and I would start reading, but the more like as I was like, okay, and focus now, my brain just started, and like I had to go God, poof, and like do a thing or whatever, like go to the other room and get a snack, or like and I would go, okay, now, okay, seriously this time, and I would sit down and then like like even just think about it now, it's like, oh my gosh. And the frustration of really wanting to focus but being seemingly constitutionally incapable of doing it was I mean, it was frustrating for immediate reasons, that I wanted to do the thing that I was doing, but also, I mean, there was and absolutely still is just a really terrifying sense of powerlessness, of helplessness. Yeah. And realizing that this is something that I couldn't control. There's this like, I can't control this. I can't, all the years where I was like, oh, I could totally focus on that, I just don't want to. That had been shattered. Now it's like, oh, I can't focus just constitutionally, like even no matter if I want to. And so that just scared me to the point where I was like, okay, I need to do something about this. And I always knew that ADHD existed. Anyways, so yeah, I got diagnosed to start the process of fixing that. But but you were 15 though, and this is something that I don't know if you get this question a lot, but I get this question a lot from people who watch me on TikTok is, I'm 13, I'm 14, I'm 15. I don't know how to have a conversation with my parents. I'm too embarrassed to talk to my doctor. Like, what should I do? Mm-hmm. Like, how did you go about it? Like, did you just talk to your parents about it? Did your parents notice? Like, how did that go down? Do you remember? Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, so the story is, I'm going to be real honest about it. But the story is I got an Adderall from a friend of mine. And I didn't, this was after I had that moment / those moments / that whole period of like freaking out, realizing I'm like, oh my God, you know, the reason I haven't been focusing this whole time is not because I didn't want to, it's because like, it seems that I can't.
Yeah.
So this was after, like during that time, one of my friends just offhandedly, I won't say his name, but he was doing it to get high, definitely, like, no question. And he kind of thought it was cool that he was doing it to get high. So anyways, he was very vociferous about it. And so I heard that he had it, and I'll use every excuse to use that word. And so I heard that he had it. And so I was like, can I? And the answer, so I got some from him. And I took it, and it was way too much. Of course it was, because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. It was, I won't use numbers because I don't want, I'm genuinely, I don't want to influence anybody to do or not do it. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's not a good idea to do it this way, but I think it's also important. I think it's really important to acknowledge that, like, for a lot of people, that is their introduction to how Adderall works, is they get it illegally. They get it from somebody else, and like, that's okay, but like, you don't want to do it for that very reason. Like, that's why it's dangerous, is because it comes in all different, you know, dosages and all different, like, extended release and quick release and all of that stuff. And so it's like, you need to make sure that you're talking to your doctor. But like, in this moment, it's fine because you're telling a story. Like,
this is what actually happened. But yeah, I mean, I can't state, I don't like explicitly enough that like, don't do this. Do not do it. Do not do this. Just don't do it. I want to sit here and like think of like a whole like lecture for why you shouldn't, but just don't.
Just don't do it.
Thing you do in terms of medication should be through your doctor in the proper channel. But that being said, this is what happens. Yeah, so I got it from my friend. It was too much, and I took it. And I took it in the morning before school. Like, I did like enough research to like find out how long it would take to kick in. Should I eat before it? Like, because I was doing it to see what would happen. Like, I mean, this is the thing that treats the thing that is like, I mean, I can't overstate how much I was sort of freaking out. I mean, not like I wasn't like throwing over tables, but like internally I was like, oh my gosh, like all of the things that I want to do with my life are now completely called into question. Because now I know that no matter how much I want to do it, I still probably won't be able to focus when the time comes to do whatever. Which was just a shattering thought to my like understanding of myself and my ego, not like my ego, like, haha, look at me, although sure. But just like my sense of self and what I was up to. So anyways, this was like, just, you know, I was doing research that you shouldn't do. You should go through your doctor. You can do all this with your doctor, and it's do that. But anyways, so I was doing this to, you know, see. And so anyways, I took it about a half an hour before my first class. And I walked into class. It was German class. And I just remember sitting there, and it was just kind of quiet. Like perhaps it's cliche to say a fog cleared, but it was just kind of quiet. Like there was just like, what's happening there? Like, oh, we're discussing, you know, conjugation. Oh, interesting. Like all of a sudden it was just like, oh, hello. Like, holy, like I didn't really care. Like I was aware. It's not like I was dead. Like I was aware of what was going on, but it was just like, what's this? And it was, I don't know. I mean, I'm borrowing this phrase from somebody else who had a similar experience, but it felt kind of like I was meeting myself for the first time, which is not something I subscribe to fully. That's not to say that like my medicated self is my truest self or anything like that, because I haven't thought about it that much, or enough, I guess. But it was like, wow, the things that I want to focus on, I can't focus on, which was just incredible. Like I could, and then I went to like, my next class was painting. And we would do like 4 days a week of we would be painting, and then 1 day a week of studying art history and stuff, which I've always found fascinating, but I've never been able to like sit and read a book about it or like watch a lecture on it. It was just sort of like, I would listen to 15 seconds of something before I got uninterested and like turn to something else. But I sat there and I was like, whoa, like Cezanne's cool, you know, and like I got to listen to the whole thing, and I still remember things we learned in that class today. But then, as you know, it was too much. So, you know, amphetamines work by raising your tonic dopamine levels in your head to regular levels by either increasing the rate at which it's secreted or decreasing the rate at which it's reuptook into your brain, which I think you know, but sure. So let's say it.
For the viewers at home.
For the viewers at home. And so for a time, while it was sort of kicking in, those dopamine levels reached regular levels. And then after that, they reached higher than average levels, which is what people who don't have ADHD, that's what it does to them all the time, because their dopamine levels are already normal. And so if they take ADHD meds, it's raising their dopamine levels to unnaturally high levels. So for me, low dopamine, then as it was kicking in, there was a period of like regular dopamine levels and then elevated dopamine levels. And at that point, I wasn't like, I didn't get hyperactive. It was just in my head, but I was sort of like suddenly unable to focus on things and suddenly just like too interested in everything. And it's like, it was sort of weird. It was like this reversal. Like there was this moment where I was like, whoa, and then, whoa. And then, you know, which is a whole thing, which is another reason why the way to do this is in a controlled, measured setting. The ways that, you know,
Yep.
ADHD medications are different than like illicit amphetamines is that like illicit amphetamines, illegal amphetamines, they just crank up the dopamine excretion of your brain like all the way, or they completely close off the rate at which, and so you just go, whoa. Whereas ADHD meds do it in a very delicate, measured way. If you take it in a delicate, measured way, that's like the whole thing. And so, anyways, at that point, I really like, oh, there's something to this, but also this can go really wrong. And then the crash I had later that day this was November 9th, 2009. I remember the day. It was a fucking weird day.
How bad it was.
Yeah. But anyways, so that's how I got medicated when I was 15. And the diagnosis process was extensive because they don't want to just give those meds to underage people willy-nilly. At least they didn't. This was 10 years ago too. So things may have changed for people that age. I'm not that age anymore, so I don't know. But yeah, it was an extensive process. Yeah. You got medicated when you were 32. I didn't mean to date.
No, when I was 30.
30. Gotcha.
Yeah. And mine was like the least not complicated process ever. And I think it's probably because I was like an adult, you know?
Right.
But like, I mean, mine, it was actually really kind of similar to you a little bit, but basically like I was working for a Shakespeare company and they were doing 3 shows in rep and I had been cast as a lead in every single one of the shows. Don't want to brag. But with Shakespeare, if you're a lead, you have a fuck ton of lines. Like that's just the nature of the beast. The bigger your part, the more you talk, except if you're playing Lavinia, but I'll rant about that later. And so basically like I was really stressed out. I was in this really like weird transitory period of my life anyway, because like I had just moved. I was not even married at the time. I was in the process of getting married. And we were like planning a wedding from like long distance, and it was just my life was a mess, and I was like just falling apart around me, and I was just watching everything crumble. And then I was like, I remember very vividly. I don't remember the date like you, but like I sat down and I was like, okay, here I go. I'm gonna memorize my lines. And like I read the first line. I was like, okay, first line memorized, great. Then I went to memorize the second line and I was like, second line memorized, great. Let's put them together. And I was like, wait, what was the first line? And then I was like, huh, weird. And then I did it again. And then I did it again. And then I did it again. And then 5.5 hours later, I was still working on the same monologue. And so I just had this very real moment where I was like, it is 3 weeks until the show. I don't know any of my lines. Like I'm fucked. Like, and it was fear. And it was like this very real, very profound fear of like, this isn't just like, oh no, I'm going to get a bad grade on a test. Like this is my professional reputation. This is what I do for my job. This is the thing that I have learned and dedicated my life to. And I define myself by, and it is my pride and the thing that I love most in the world, and I can't do it. My brain is not letting me do it. And that was terrifying. Now, luckily, I always feel bad when people ask me this question because my story is so, I don't even want to say privileged, but I mean, it is privileged because I have, access to medical care and stuff, but it's also just like fortuitous because like I literally called up like the first psychology group in the area because I was still new to the area. I didn't know the good ones or the bad ones. Called up the first one. They were like, yeah, we totally got an appointment next couple days. Come on in. And I was like, great. And I went in and I was really nervous, right? Because I don't know if you have this experience, but and I don't want to speak for all women, but I think a lot of women who have dealt with medical problems have this sort of like internalized trauma about like being believed or being perceived as like drug seekers or like that kind of thing. And I had literally just come off of like a huge medical emergency. Like I had just gone in for surgery. Like it was just like my life was a mess. And so I went in and I basically was like, so I have trouble focusing and paying attention. And I realized like as I was talking, I was downplaying. Like I was apologizing for being there. I was downplaying my experience. I was downplaying my symptoms. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's not like a big deal, except that like I have a little bit of trouble like memorizing my life. And I had this very profound memory of like my doctor who is amazing. And she also has ADHD. And she is like experienced the same thing. And she looked at me and she goes, it really sounds like you have like very valid concerns. Are you sure that you're not downplaying because you're embarrassed about how much they're affecting your life? And I went, as a matter of fact, I am.
Wow.
Yeah.
Badass.
And so that's why I say like I got really lucky, was because not only did I find a doctor who believed me, but I found a doctor who is around my age, who is also like a gifted and talented student, who has had many of the same life experiences as me, who also was diagnosed with ADHD much later in life, who got through grad school, who got through medical school. And so she, I think, really understood, like, you can be super successful and have your life falling apart around you. You can be super put together. You can have your life together. You can have the shiniest social media account ever. But if you can't memorize your lines and it's fucking up your life, then that's still a valid concern, you know? So yeah. And then I took like a couple of tests. It took about 3 hours, I think. And it was like just little little paper tests. It was like, well, do you occasionally experience this? And I was just like, yeses all the way down, you know? And then they called me on my 30th birthday and they were like, hey, we got your test results. Like, we've evaluated it. We really think that, you know, it looks like you probably have ADHD and and depression. And I was like, no shit, thank you. And so yeah, so I got medicated, and it took about 6 months to get my meds like figured out. It was like a weird 6 months, but
Yeah.
but yeah, that's my story.
What were the paper tests like? So, because as far as I understand, they're like the current way of diagnosing ADHD is there are 2 sets of 9 questions, one for hyperactivity and one for inattentiveness. And if you get 5 of either one, then you qualify. Was that what happened? Is that the test? Are those the tests that you took? Third tries a charm.
Oh, mine were a lot longer. Mine were like I think the first one was like, it was a type of test where they don't specifically tell you what they are testing for, but if you know anything about anything and you use your critical thinking skills, you can sort of like ascertain what they're screening for. So the first one the first one I took was like a depression, anxiety, and then they screened me for autism, and then they screened me for ADHD. So it went in that order. But like, mine were all very much like, I mean, it was kind of just like the DSM checklist. Like, it was just questions, but it was like, do you have trouble paying attention? Yes. Like, if yes, like how much? Like, how much does it affect your life? Like, that kind of thing. And it was just kind of like, I think it was all like 1 to 5, you know, it was like always, you know, most of the time, never, like that kind of thing. And yeah, I think the depression one had like 25 questions. I think the autism one had like maybe, God, I don't remember. It was longer. I want to say it was like 50 questions. And then the ADHD one it was honestly kind of short. I think it was like 15 or 20. And it was just like, I was just like, yes, like every single box. Like, to the point where like, then I started like second guessing myself, right? Because it's like, when you answer yes on like every single thing, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but then I was like, oh my God, they're going to look at this and just like know that I looked it up beforehand and I know the right answer to say. And then they're going to think that I'm drug seeking even more because I answered yes to everything. So like, should I answer yes to everything? Like, maybe I should answer like sometimes just to like make sure that like, and I was just like, why is this how my brain works?
But I think we've created content. I mean, I'm personally grateful and that you have that I have heard you say the things that you've said, and I found them very interesting and all that. But I was just thinking, it's kind of funny that like, I think it's perhaps just never going to be a part of this podcast that we're going to have like a segment that begins and then ends.
Oh, not at all. No, it's never going to happen.
And now it's over. Like,
here's the model of the segments. It looks like we start here. Mm-hmm. And then it's like just splinters, and it's just that's how this works.
Yeah,
like that's just the inherent truth is like, look, we're never gonna get to the end of the thing because there is no end to the thing because it's an infinite quest. Title card.
Ah, that was
Still
nice.
dabbing? Are we still dabbing on it?
I don't know if that's a thing. I was going like,
I
like,
thought you were like dabbing on it.
oh.
But I've been informed that dabbing on it is not cool anymore. But I'm bummed because I really liked an ironic dab. Like I just thought it was really funny. Just every time.
Yeah,
I actually dabbed during my last Shakespeare show. I would just like come on stage and dab.
program or in character.
In character. I was also supposed to do the one the what's it called? The threat, like the threading one. What's it called?
Oh, flossing.
Flossing. That's what it's called. I was supposed to floss, and they had to like the director literally like brought in her like 7-year-old daughter to teach me how to floss, and I was like, what? I don't understand what is happening.
It's a 3 count. It's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2.
I could not do it. I'm the worst dancer. Like I'm a mover, not a dancer. And I can barely move because I have no spatial awareness around my body because I have body dysmorphia. And so I'm a terrible dancer. And so, yeah, I was like, oh, God, I have to floss. And I just couldn't figure it out. This 8-year-old's looking at me like I'm just an idiot. It was pretty great.
Did you eventually learn how to do it?
I did. And then I dropped out of the show. The end.
Can you still do it?
Can I still floss? Probably not.
Make your dentist proud. I also am aware that you have very strong incentive to lie and say that you can't, even if you can.
I know. That was a trap. That was absolutely a trap.
Well, you know where I was like, I want to see you do it. If you can do it, I can.
I'm not gonna floss for you, Erik. I'm not gonna floss for you. I'll do Shakespeare for you. I will fucking slum it and do Marlowe for you, but I'm not gonna floss for you, my friend. I draw the line. I gotta draw the line somewhere.
I'm trying to figure out, like, I'm trying to like assemble like a vector or a spectrum between doing Shakespeare and flossing, because you like draw the line somewhere. All right, so what is
There's a lot. There's a lot in between.
Is it a time-based thing? Is it too current of a trend, or is it too ridiculous of a thing? I don't know.
There's a lot to consider.
And what is at the end of either end of the spectrum? If it is a spectrum of ridiculousness, a scale of ridiculousness.
Like I also feel like there's like spectrums within spectrums, because like I'm definitely willing to like drop like Midsummer or Titus or Troilus and Cressida like any time, but like if you were like do some Lear, I'd be like, nah.
Could you do the from Hamlet, the I knew him Horatio?
I knew him Horatio. He's a fellow of infinite jest. That one?
Yes.
Is that it? Is that all you want?
No, I want to know as much as I want to hear as much as you can do.
Last poor Yorick. I knew him. No shit. I should know more of this. The last poor Yorick. I knew him Horatio, a fellow of infinite jest, of most excellent fancy. Why, many times I used to ride upon his back. That's not right at all. It's not even close to right. It's fine. Now I'm gonna look it up because I don't know.
Well, I was thinking just now. I think it'd be cool if you and I, during each episode, not even really as a segment, but just we at some point during the episode, or perhaps we edited them and just recited a thing that we like and would like people to hear.
You know? Okay, I like that.
Because I fucking love reading aloud, because it's frankly one of the only ways that I can like consistently read, is because like I have to maintain where I am if I'm saying it out loud. But also they're like poems and things that I read all the time that like I could not fucking imagine my life without, and like, you know, to be able to, I think that'd be cool.
Okay, so that's our first segment. Time for poetry reading with Erik.
Am I supposed to go now?
I mean, I don't know. We've never done this before. It's up to you.
You can put it wherever. Well, I'll do one that I have memorized because I want to seem really cool and interesting. All right, yeah, all right, I'll go, I guess. This is The Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to crawl on your knees for 1,000 miles through the desert repenting. You only must let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I'll tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are flying home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over again announcing your place in the family of things. That's the end of the poem.